Hello guys, welcome back to another video. Today I am going over 3 new articles, I think. I don't know. So yeah, we're gonna go over 2 Rosaline articles. I don't know if I can actually... I don't know if I went over this one, so... yeah. So here we go. Change Emerald 2, a Rosalini Rivet interview. We speak to the Rivet game about the upcoming Swiss route. With 41 tunnel, yeah, I actually went over this one, I remember. If I didn't, let me know. So here we go. Panoramic plasur. If you look on Google, you can just type the Lynchfield Railroad building, the F7 article, and Trains in World 2, Panoramic plasur on Google, and then you'll find the articles, I think. So anyways, here we go. A landscape more suited to a fantasy novel than a busy railway, the Rosalini Rosa plows through deep valleys, steep mountains, rolling hills, and vast forests. Incredible views greet you as you climb through the plasur region towards the terminus at Arosa. Reaching impressive heights of 1,739 meters above sea level, Rosalini Rosa offers visitors panoramic mountainous sights that are unparalleled in their beauty across the world. This unique beauty leads rail fans to travel from across the world to visit the Rosalini. Every year, often their single goal is to capture inspiring and artistic photographs and videos to add to their collections and share with others. Thanks to these creative individuals, there's an eclectic mix of reference material available. So yeah, here's screenshots that finally loaded. Mix of reference material available, revealing some of the most striking railway images and videos ever captured. The route is cramped, full of amazing locations, each offering something different for these aspiring photographers to enjoy. With the detail that Trains Emerald 2 offers, Rivet Games have been able to lovingly recreate the route in exquisite detail. You have the freedom to capture even more exciting railfan shots for your own collection from angles previously unobtainable. You'll be able to take in these amazing locations from the driver's seat, a rare vantage point for most railfans. Of course, you can also let the AI driver take control, meaning you can sit back to take in all the terrain and watch out for the next perfect railfan shot location. Today we take a closer look at some of the more impressive locations you can look forward to as you explore this wonderful Swiss route. Screenshots here. The cab of the RHB GE here looks like a nice cab. Anyways, a visit to a Rosalini Rosa wouldn't be complete without seeing the famous Langer Weser Viaduct, constructed between 1912 and 1914 to cross the Plasur River Valley. It was the first railway bridge anywhere in the world to possess a span of 100 meters. This is probably one of the world's most visually appealing concrete structures. You can see it up on the bridge up there. I think, so we might be able to, there might be a little circle that brings us down, like from up, down, you know what I mean? Because there's electric lines right above us in that image. So it's either not accessible track like portal for AI trains, or it's either accessible. I've never been to Switzerland, so I don't know. At the time of construction of Rosalini Churla Rosa was the most expensive route on the Ratian railway network. This was mainly due to the substantial civil engineering structures that the route is most famous for. Numerous tunnels, bridges, and bridges were constructed, along with rockfall shelters, much like the ones found at Sassel. These unique structures prevent the inevitable falling rocks from the mountainside, causing problems for unsuspecting drivers. I think that's one of the shelters right there at the first image up there. Due to the mountainous region, the weather can vary greatly. Due to the mountainous region, the weather can vary greatly depending on the time of year you visit. As your train climbs through the mountains, you are guaranteed to see snow across the hills for much of the year. Arosa experiences a sub-Arctic climate, which brings incredibly cold, long winters. Pure white of a snow-covered landscape, offset by the bright livery of the Ratian Bahn locomotives in stock, naturally leads to some amazing shots. Got one in the rain and one in the snow. Keep your eyes peeled. Over the coming weeks, we will be showing off more. Keep your eyes peeled. Over the coming weeks, we will be showing off even more of the Rosalini Churla Rosa screenshots and videos. You can look forward to interviews, detailed developer videos, and more. Make sure you don't miss anything on Rosalini by following at TrainSimWorld on Twitter and Facebook. Screenshots and images displayed in here may depict content that is still in development. So yeah, if you look up Rivet Games on YouTube as well, you can find a preview of the passenger cars and the locomotive included, which is the RHB GE 4, I think. So yeah, let's go over to the Clinchfield one. Clinchfield Railroad, building the F7. We catch up with the Locomo team to find out more about the EMD F7 for the upcoming Clinchfield Railroad. Clinchfield Railroad is coming to TrainSimWorld 2. In this classic railroading route, you will take control of the instantly recognizable EMD F7. Here we got Tom Connell's drawing. You will take control of this instantly recognizable EMD F7 diesel locomotive, dressed in the vibrant and coal-dusted coated Clinchfield Railroad route. We chatted to James Moody, our senior physics engineer, who we spoke to in one of the articles. I think they're talking about, they talked to him in the TGV article. And Callum Wagstaff, our assistant technical designer, to find out more about the creation of this iconic locomotive. Callum, would you like to introduce yourself and what do you do here at Dovetail Games? He says, I'm an assistant technical designer. I spend most of my days putting together the locomotives and the conversion between player interaction to loco interaction. I put in safety systems and warning devices to make sure they feed back to the player. I write what the player should do when they interact with them. Can you tell us what is unique and special about the F7? James says, this is the oldest locomotive we have done so far. It is by far much earlier than anything we've done in the US previously. We have done British historical content, but the earliest we have done before is the Class 101 DMU, which is from the early 50s, or from the early 50s. These date back to 1949. So the F7 was built in 1949, or the earliest. It has been challenging creating something that's this old. The older something is, the more difficult the research material is to get. In this case, we were lucky that the F7 are really famous and people collect information about them. Just looking at the production history of when they were made, there weren't any uniform F7s that were all the same. It was like ordering a car from a car dealer and being told this is a 1949 model. Here's the option sheet, and each railroad selected varying options. We had a challenge trying to work out exactly what were in the F7s by the 1970s. The ones we are trying to depict 20 years after they have been built, and they are a bit run down. They had been maintained by the local shop as well. There's a lot of documentation, but very little of it agrees across the board. So here we got a model of the F7. The railroad we are representing is famous for not cleaning anything. You could see that with how they reacted with their stock changes. At the point we are recreating, they are 20 to 25-year-old locomotives that are still in frontline service and haven't been pushed down at all. They would take a set that was originally intended to be 4 vehicles together with 2 A units and 2 B units in the middle. And instead they were using the A units heavily, but the B units don't have a cab and weren't as flexible, so they were traded in individually against new locomotives for credit with the manufacturer. They then put the A units together and just lashed them up. However, we have seen pictures of 4 A units running nose to tail, all facing the same way. What is different with creating older locomotives compared to newer ones? James says, what's different is the technology involved. Everything is just a bit more agricultural all the way through. The personality of this locomotive is in showing all of that and making it apparent to the player. If it works the same as a modern stereo locomotive, it doesn't have the personality it needs to for a locomotive of this era. We've tried very hard to capture the feel of being in this time period. Inside the cab of the F7 is quite a small enclosed cab, and there's not a lot of headroom in places or space to move. It's set very high in the loco and you are having to climb up a long ladder to get into the cab. It feels very unique, especially when you stand up and move around. You experience that cramped feeling you would in real life, It should feel different to anything else we've created, and it offers the player a new viewpoint. When we compare it to the SD40 that is paired within this route, it's going to be quite a different driving experience between the two. How did you create this locomotive? What steps did you take? I'm currently looking through a 260-page manual for the brake valve. There are so many variants of so many pieces to understand. I will then put them into the computers using Simograph and get it to represent what I am reading. There are so many little interactions with it. With Simograph, the idea is to represent the how, and then all of the other behaviors come out the other end. How do you collect the information you need to create this locomotive? Callum says, for an older locomotive like the F7, collecting information is difficult. They were made for nearly 50 routes across America, Canada, and even Mexico. They all have their own differences, and throughout the years, small refurbishments have been made. At the start of a project like this, I spend a few days researching, starting with a jumping off point, and an engine's man's manual. And I then do more in-depth searches for specific details. Rolling stock forums can be a huge help, as folks who used to drive these locos are active members and can shed light on the nuisance of certain controls. If you can't find what we're looking for, the team here at Dovetail and the members of our Discord and beta forums all have great depth of knowledge on all things trains. James says, the older something is, the more people put information online for fun. These locomotives are run typically by museum and heritage centers, and they tend to share what they have found, because it was difficult for them to find. We also get academic projects using it, because at this point some of these manuals are old enough to be out of copyright. I spent ages trying to identify if the particular F7s we are representing had dynamic brakes or not. So I was getting period photos of the route, staring at the digitized pixels at the top, thinking, is that a dynamic brake fan or not? I ended up coming to the conclusion that they have some of either. The cab of the F7 up there. What have you enjoyed creating about this route? Callum says, Callum, whatever you want to call him, from designing the transitional lever, which you don't really see very much now, that has been fun to implement because it has a lot of different states that need to be at different times. You have to leave the throttle off for a good amount of time before the dynamic brakes will kick in. There are a lot of interlocking controls that are different to put together and master. When it comes to driving, there will be a nice challenge. James says, it's a very different driving experience. This has the old control stand from the early days of the EMD diesels. Everything we've done so far has had some sort of dash 2 controls from the mid-70s. Here we got a pink F7. They're all painted like this before they're even painted, I think. Clinchfield Railroad is coming soon to Transom World 2. Stay up to date with everything on this route by following at Transom World on Twitter and Facebook. Images displayed in here may depict content that is still in development. So yeah. Anyways, that's about it. If you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you again next time on Thursday. I will be live at either 3 p.m. Eastern or earlier. I don't know when exactly. So I'm thinking 3 p.m. Eastern with the Western Glory or the 1970s pack of Great Western Express. So yeah, there will be class 31, 45, 47s, etc. The 101, 52, and 08 is included in this pack. So yeah, I'll see you guys again in the next video. Goodbye, guys.